We looked at the best player drafted at every position all time, but now we're going to do the same for current players. So basically the best player at every position based on currently how good these guys are. And there's a lot more great second round players than you might think, so we're going to go through those quickly and then we'll take some more time on the first round picks. And also not every second round pick brought us a great player, so we got to skip around a bit. But starting with number 60 is Isaiah Thomas. Skipping to 48 with Marc Gasol. At 47, Paul Millsap was drafted. With pick 46, the Lakers picked Jordan Clarkson. Pick 45 brought Lou Williams. Number 42 was Patrick Beverley. At 41 came already one of the better second round picks of all time in Nikola Jokic. 40 brought in Josh Richardson. Pick number 39 was the new All-Star Chris Middleton. 38 turned out to be Spencer Dinwiddie. 36 is the rising star in Malcolm Brogdon. The best player to be drafted with the 35th overall pick was Draymond Green, but we gotta give an honorable mention to DeAndre Jordan. Pick 34 brought in Jae Crowder. With the 33rd pick, the Kings drafted Hassan Whiteside. The best to be picked 32nd was Montrezl Harrell, and the last of the second round with the 31st overall pick was Bojan Bogdanovic, who was the clear best player from that spot. And now we can get on to the first round with number 30, Jimmy Butler. There was definitely no competition for Butler in this spot, who's a true leader and one of the best two-way players in the league, like he just showed for Philly in the playoffs. And it makes sense why he was drafted 30 though, because he's brought himself a long way since he was in college. 29, DeJounte Murray. Murray was injured all year this year, but it's going to be exciting to see if he can come out and take his offensive game to another level next year. 28, Wayne Ellington. As you can tell, no one great's been drafted at 28. But 27's a different story because there's Pascal Siakam, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kyle Kuzma, and Rudy Gobert. So there's a lot of competition. Now with the way he's developing, the spot may go to Pascal down the line, but for now it goes to the former Defensive Player of the Year in Rudy Gobert. And then number 26 has a few good role players in Landry Shamet, George Hill, and Andre Robertson. And I consider giving the spot to Shamet, but for how George Hill is stepping up in the playoffs right now with the Bucks, due to his years of experience, we gotta give it to him. 25. The best current player drafted with the 25th pick is Clint Capela, and there's no debate, because he's been great for the Rockets this far into his career, being the perfect guy to play in transition and catch lobs from James Harden. That's in the regular season, but certain matchups in the playoffs really limit what he can do, which has definitely turned into a problem for them. 24. Kyle Lowry. Other notable players picked 24th overall are Tim Hardaway Jr. and Serge Ibaka, but this spot's gotta go to the 5-time All-Star. He was picked 24th because he didn't look fantastic coming out of Villanova, and he really still didn't in his first 6 or 7 years in the league until he found his home in Toronto. 23. Nikola Mirotic. At times with the Pelicans this past season, Mirotic looked like he was turning into a star. His only problem was staying consistent and healthy, but now he's in a completely different role for the Bucks, where his style fits perfectly into their system. And they need him to give it his all for the rest of the playoffs because he's probably not going to be back there next season. And then there's also no competition for the number 22 draft spot, where the best player is Jared Allen, who didn't get drafted any higher because he only played 1 year in college. But even though he doesn't have fantastic stats to prove it, he's starting to look like a young center with a lot of potential. Number 21 is nothing special because it's between Rajon Rondo or Darren Collison, which means Darren easily takes it. While on the subject though, let's just all hope that the Pacers finally get an upgrade at point guard this season. And then the number 20 spot's a tricky one though, because it's between Caris LeVert and Evan Fournier. And while Fournier's been the better scorer up until this point, Caris was having a breakout season this year before going down with that injury, until he came back in the playoffs and looked great on both ends. So we're giving this spot to him because I expect him to come back a lot better than Fournier next season. 19 easily goes to Tobias Harris, who really wasn't a good player to start his career, but right now is on the edge of becoming an all-star. Number 18 goes to Eric Bledsoe, who beats out the only other current semi-notable player in JaVale McGee for the spot. 17 belongs to Drew Holiday, one of the better, always underappreciated two-way players in the league. And it's going to be interesting to see if the Pelicans can find a trade for him now that they got the first overall pick, aka Zion. The best 16th pick has got to be the first-time All-Star in Nikola Vucevic, who beats out Terry Rozier and Yusuf Nurkic here. The man needs to end up on a playoff team next year, and with so many teams with open spots, it's really going to be interesting to see where he goes. And for number 15, we have to give this spot to both Kawhi Leonard and Giannis. I've been going back and forth with myself for a while on who the better player is, but it's a tough one. I mean, Giannis and the Bucks look like they're about to knock the Raptors out of the playoffs, but the Bucks do have the better overall team. And with everything Kawhi's done this year and his overall offense and defense, it's still tough to rank Giannis ahead of him, even though the man's been dominant in the playoffs. So they're sharing number 15 for now. Number 14, Bam Adebayo. Bam's great, but it's surprising that there was no one better than him taken at 14. I mean, he was really the only quality player drafted there. But either way, I expect Bam's game to take a big jump this year as their new starting center going forward. Then 13's where the real competition comes in between Donovan Mitchell, Zach LaVine, and Devin Booker. So far, LaVine and Booker have been great scorers on bad teams, but Donovan's the only one that's led his team to wins or even made the playoffs. So he definitely gets a spot here. Number 12 goes to Steven Adams. Dario Saric and Taurean Prince were also picked here, but both of these guys with potential didn't make any progress this season. So it goes to Aquaman. And Aquaman's a great overall center, but not fantastic at any one thing. 11 easily goes to Klay Thompson, who there's speculation about where Klay will end up, but at least in my mind I think there's no doubt KD leaves and Klay stays and gets the money he deserves. Then Golden State can go back to being the best team in the league in a fair way. Number 10 is easily going to be Paul George, but I mean if we're talking about playoff performances, CJ McCollum would be giving him a run for his money on this spot, but we're not, so it's still Paul George. And I mean after the breakout regular season he had this year, it was such a disappointing postseason for him and OKC. He is just entering his prime though, so who knows, next year could and hopefully is going to be even bigger for him. At number 9, there's guys like Gordon Hayward, who's not worth mentioning anymore, and the new DeMar DeRozan that doesn't disappear in the playoffs, but Kemba Walker beats these guys out. Now I'm telling you, if Kemba doesn't lead the Hornets this offseason, the man deserves to be slapped 2 times. One for the horrible decision, and one for staying there as long as he has already. And from all the star power there is at number 9, and the past few numbers, there's a big drop off here at number 8. With the current best player drafted here being Collin Sexton. I mean, some numbers just aren't lucky. I do want to say I think Sexton had an underrated rookie year, but I can also see it being one of those situations where the only reason his numbers have looked so good is because the Cavs were so bad. With number 7 though, we're back to great players with guys like Lauri Markkanen, Jamal Murray, Julius Randle, Harrison Barnes, and oh yeah, Steph Curry. Curry takes this spot, and I have to say one of the things I'm by far most excited for next season is finally getting to see Steph go back into his MVP form without KD. As of the making of this video, we're getting to see a hint of that right now in the playoffs against the Blazers, and he's getting the chance to remind everyone just how good he is on his own. And really just how good this team was before Durant got there. I mean, I feel like a lot of people forgot really how dominant they were. And even though KD took over as the star player of this team, Steph still had the best statistical season of his career this year, right behind his unanimous MVP season. And I could really see him being a frontrunner for their award again next year. Then the best player drafted 6th overall is Damian Lillard, who beats out Buddy Hield. Even though people disagreed, I've had Dame as the 3rd best point guard for a couple years now over Westbrook. And after what we've seen from him, I personally think he's moved up to being the 2nd best over Kyrie Irving. I mean, he's shown that he's just as clutch, and is definitely a much better leader than Kyrie is. Comment whether you agree or disagree on this. And then we have number 5, which is tricky because it's between Kevin Love, Trae Young, and De'Aaron Fox. And these are weird players to compare. I mean, Love's the only champion and former All-Star, but last time I ranked him based on this, people were not happy. Plus, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries, so we won't give this one to him. And then even though some of Trae Young's stats look slightly better than De'Aaron's, I think so far Fox has proven to be much more consistent and a better leader, so we'll give this spot to him. The spot for the 4th pick goes to Russell Westbrook, who at this point I'm convinced may never make it out of the 1st round again. And I know Westbrook fans don't like hearing that or anything else negative about the man, but facts back that up at this point. Number 3, James Harden. Joel Embiid does make a case for this spot, but he's still got a long way to go. He had the potential to be the best player on Philly in the playoffs, but he really didn't play like it. He didn't take over games like he was supposed to, and instead Jimmy Butler was the one to do that. And that's something James Harden knows how to do and does every single game he plays. But with Embiid's presence on offense and defense, if he can learn how to take over a playoff game, then he could take this spot over down the line. But for now it still goes to James. Number 2, Kevin Durant. I mean, there's really no contest for these last 2 spots, with the number 1 spot then being LeBron James. With the step backwards LeBron took this year, there should be a lot more competition for this first overall pick spot, but there's not. With most first overall picks either turning out to be a bust, declining from injuries, or still yet to have proven themselves. I mean, James's biggest competition here would be Anthony Davis, who maybe once he's on his new team can eclipse LeBron here, but that's still left to be seen. And then after him it jumps down to Kyrie Irving, who isn't in the conversation. But that wraps things up. That's the best current player drafted at every position. There were a lot of second round picks and late picks with a lot more talent at them than you'd expect, and a lot of higher up draft picks with not too many great players there. So if any of this did surprise you or you found out anything new, comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next video.